All right, welcome to Financial Revelations Podcast. I am David Safransky, and you can find us on YouTube and Spotify and Lisbon and all these other places. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad we're back. We had a little bit of a timing issue last week with the podcast because scheduling just didn't work out when I was in Florida to do an interview, but we are setting up some interviews for future podcasts for you. So as always, you can send questions, comments, concerns, your rent payment to, it's right here, david@epsf.com. That's my email, david@epsf.com. And, or you can also send it to joshua@epsf.com. In fact, that'd be a better spot to send it to because my email gets a little cluttered. So joshua@epsf.com. Joshua is my marketing department. He's behind the camera right now. Wave hi, Josh. He did. He waved hi. He loves you guys too. So I'd like to thank Sandy, fan of the show, friend of ours, for sending the podcast to like 900,000 people over the last couple of weeks. It's Christmas, it's a couple weeks before Christmas, and I want to do two things. I want to answer a question that we got that I do get this question very, very frequently, so I'd like to answer this one. Seems like on the radio I answer it all the time, but I'll do it here too. Darcy, a friend of ours, asked, she has this dilemma about paying off her mortgage faster, putting a chunk against it or paying more each month. And I get this a lot because in the Larry Burkett days, Larry used to talk about getting your mortgage paid off as soon as you possibly could. And while I do like being out of debt, I have this idea in my mind that I don't mind having some debt and some cash versus no debt and no cash. I want to have cash. I always want to have my emergency fund, even if that emergency fund could pay off my house. I'd be left with nothing, but I have no debt. And the problem with that is, yes, you own your house. True. Free and clear. However, that is not going to help you when your transmission falls out of your car and you need to find some way to finance it. So I will sacrifice paying off all of my debt to have some cash, especially if your mortgage rates are low. So, for instance, I just refinanced a house at 2.6%. Hard to believe. It's almost like stealing, but I did that. And most of the people that we talk to are below 4%. Now, if you're over 4%, you have to consider refining right now. The key to a successful refi is not just going out to the first place and paying $5,000 to do it, because you don't have to pay that much. So to answer Darcy's question, I like paying my mortgage down a little faster than what is required. So what I always like to do is I want to take a 30-year mortgage because that gives me the most flexibility, and I want to pay it faster. So if you make one extra mortgage payment a year, so you divide your mortgage payments by 12, you add that onto each mortgage payment, you're going to pay one extra payment a year. I'm going to cut your mortgage down by about 8 years or so. If you do 2 mortgage payments a year, I'm going to cut your mortgage down by over 12 years. So you've just made your 30-year mortgage almost a 15-year mortgage. You had ultimate flexibility because if you got laid off in COVID, you could make your mortgage payment a little bit smaller, and I like that flexibility. So I want maximum flexibility, and I could make a 30-year mortgage, a 5-year, a 15-year, a 2-month mortgage, but I can't make a 15-year mortgage a 30-year mortgage. When you do that, the bank comes for your house. So that's how I look at mortgage payments and paying off my house. I want to pay it off faster, but I don't want to do it sacrificing all of my cash. So keep the questions coming. You can send them to either david@epsf.com or joshua@epsf.com. And we're waiting for your questions. We want to answer those. I think that's a big part of what we're going to do here and talk about these important financial concepts. We can go into a little bit more depth in them. Couple of weeks before Christmas, I wanted to share one of my favorite Christmas stories with you guys. I'm not going to read a book or put on a sweater, smoke a pipe, or anything like that. But when I think about how Christmas gets as you have kids and you You get a bigger house, and all of a sudden you're spending all of your time looking for the nice things to buy and everything. My wife, LaVon, and I are always reminded of our first Christmas in our new house. We got married in August of 1992, August 14th of 1992. I know some of you are surprised that I knew that date and I don't have it written down. But August 14th of 1992, we got married. It was a Friday, and we were living in an apartment, and I really wanted to buy a house. So we did. We got a house. We lived in Amherst, Ohio for a little while, for a few years. And the thing was, is we had no money. I mean, we had no money. And we didn't really have a lot of money for Christmas that year because we had just bought a house. And you know when you buy your first house and you look at that mortgage, you think, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be out of debt. Wow. I would have had that house paid off like 17 times over by now, but we've upgraded nicely. So Christmas is coming. We have Jacob, our oldest son, and I really wanted to get him a dog. I wanted a dog, and I want him to have a dog. The problem was we had no money for a dog. We didn't even have money for dog food, let alone the dog. So I'm looking around, and I finally find this ad in the paper. A farmer down the road, not too far from us, had a litter of puppies, and they were selling the dogs for $20 a piece. And so excited, I tell my wife, hey, I think we could afford this dog. Just to give you an idea of how much money we didn't have, we would give each other, LaVon and I would allow each other $5 a week to spend however we wanted. That's how poor we were. I had just started in business. She was a brand new teacher. We were really struggling financially, but we had a house. We had really sacrificed and scrimped together and got a loan from my dad that we did pay back. And we go out, so it's time. I call the farmer, and he says, oh yeah, we got these dogs. And I said, I want a female. He said, I'll leave one for you. So we get there. We're there like a Friday night at 8:30. It was one of the coldest winters that I ever remembered in my life. It was like minus 10 degrees. And the dogs, we pull up to the farmer's house, and the dogs are way out in the barn. And it seemed like we were walking through the South Pole to get to this barn. The wind is blowing. You know, this farm has no crops up or anything, so it's just seemed like miles of open field, and the wind is coming across it. It's just cutting us like a knife. We finally get to the barn, and we are so cold. I mean, it is just freezing. And I pick up the dog, this female German Shepherd mixed dog, a mutt. It was the worst dog we ever had, but one of the best dogs. And he says, okay, $10. And it's so cold. All I had was a 20. And the farmer says, you know what? I don't have time for change. Just take the dog. So we got the dog for free. And we call it Free Dog Christmas because we saved $10 on that dog. And now, mind you, that dog ended up costing us thousands of dollars just in the doors that she chewed through in the next couple of years. But Jacob got a dog. And it was the most wonderful Christmas. It was the Christmas present for Jacob that year. And so we call it Free Dog Christmas, and we look back on it really fondly. We had to hide the dog for a little while, so we took the dog over to my in-laws' house, and this dog was difficult to potty train. I mean, this dog was hard to housebreak. But the good news is that the housebreaking really happened at my in-laws' house, so it was their carpets that got all pooped up and everything, not my carpets, so I was very grateful for that. I don't think my father-in-law was so much, but I was. And when we gave Jacob that dog on Christmas, it was something to behold. Even now, I get emotional about Free Dog Christmas. And I guess my prayer for you guys is, in the year of COVID, we can't, a lot of us can't be together. People aren't traveling. The gatherings are going to be much smaller. Hopefully this is the last time this ever happens to us, but I hope somehow you guys get a chance to have your own version of Free Dog Christmas this year. Something that years from now, because that was almost 30 years ago that Free Dog Christmas happened. We still remember it like it was yesterday. And we've had a lot of great Christmases, and we had another son in the meantime, and we've had great Christmases, some really great times together. But it's that free dog Christmas, and so hopefully you'll get a free dog Christmas this year of some kind. And I hope your family is blessed. I hope you guys can get together on Zoom or some other way to interact with each other. And the last thing I want to leave you with is, if you have somebody that's close to you that's really hurting this year, maybe it's financially, maybe it's emotionally, if you could reach out to them. You know, there's one of the things that is really important to my wife, which I really appreciate about her, is that she's a school teacher and kids are really, really important to her. So we have Angel Tree at church, where if you have a child whose parent, or sometimes both of their parents, are incarcerated, you could help provide a Christmas for them. We have Clothe a Kid, where just kids in the community, their parents cannot buy them clothes. They just don't have the money. So my wife does Angel Tree a lot. The best thing that we can do for people is to reach out to people. And especially for somebody that has no means to provide for their own kids, it's really tough. And there's a lot of laid off people this year. Businesses are hurting. Restaurants aren't operating at full capacity. In some states, they're not operating. So if you live in a state where the restaurants aren't operating, or maybe you know somebody who's a waitress, a bartender, a server of some kind, it'd be great if we could sacrifice a little bit of our Christmas to help theirs, because people are really hurting today. So I want to look out for them. Remember, you can always reach out to us, David at EPSF.com, Joshua at EPSF.com. They're going to be on this screen someplace for you to see. And send your questions. Get the podcast out there. I look forward to talking to you guys next week, the week of Christmas. Thank you guys. God bless you.